So, hi, as already mentioned, I'm Debbie and I'm from Look Ahead. I'm a technical recruiter and I've been a technical recruiter for over 3.5 years. Prior to that, I was a product manager and I actually came to Look Ahead to find my next product role and ended up becoming a technical recruiter instead. Look Ahead, if you haven't heard of us, we specialise in Ruby and JavaScript recruitment. We're sponsors of Ruby Australia, and you may see us at Roro and different Ruby related events and JavaScript ones too. We also recruit CTOs, other tech leadership roles, and sometimes we take on some other tech like PHP or Golang or DevOps roles as well. I spend my day talking to developers, talking about their jobs, what projects they've worked on, what they've enjoyed, what they haven't enjoyed, why they're job searching, what they're looking for in their next job, and what their career goals are. I also regularly chat to hiring managers in various companies around Sydney and Australia, and I learn about their hiring processes and advise them on hiring processes, and also learn about the challenges they face when it comes to hiring. So as a result, over the past few years, I've developed quite a broad perspective of the Australian developer job market, in particular when it comes to Ruby and JavaScript recruitment. So yeah, sometimes when the data comes out and the SEEK reports come out, it's like, yeah, we saw that already. We knew that was coming because we're chatting with people every day, and it takes a little while for the data to come out. Okay. So with the onset of the pandemic, we saw a lot of instability in the job market. Some companies paused hiring while we were all working out what was going on. Some companies downsized and others completely folded. Then there are other companies that had plenty of funding and had already been used to remote working. They used it as an opportunity to snap up all the experienced software engineers who had either lost their job or were in search of a more secure job while all this was going on. But then once we all got used to working remotely, all those tech companies that paused hiring started hiring again. And now the job market is busier than ever before. So this evening, my goal is to go over what's happening right now in the job market, and then we'll go over how that has impacted the experience of developers who are job searching because things have changed, how companies have responded to this new job market, and what that means for all of you, whether you're job searching or not. So let's take a look at the latest SEEK report, which is from April 2021. According to the latest employment report, April is the second consecutive record-breaking month of job ads posted on SEEK in its 23-plus year history. And conversely, applications per ad are at the lowest since 2012. The latest SEEK employment report also shows that new job ads on seek.com.au have increased 11.9% just simply from March to April 2021. So it's still happening, that the increase is still happening. But also comparing April 2021 to April 2020, we're going to see some pretty extreme statistics. So you can see that one there, jobs advertised rose by 263%. And that highlights the difference between the downturn and the upturn between COVID when it hit and the instability of last year. So what that means is that data comparing things to last year kind of isn't really a good indicator in some sense. It highlights the difference between last year and this year, but it's not very meaningful. So but if you look at the 2019 stats from April, what happened in 2019? Nothing compared to 2020. We can see that the job ad volume is up still significantly at 30.9% nationally. So this is all job ads, not specifically related to tech. So there is still, compared to a normal year in 2019, job ads are still significantly higher. And for the information and communication tech industry, that's quite a broad category still. There has been an increase in job ads that's 13.9% between March and April this year. So while some of these stats are a bit extreme because of the contrast to the job losses last year, the stats still do indicate an increase in jobs advertised even compared to 2019. And the significant decrease in applications per job ad is something that we have experienced at Look Ahead as a recruitment agency, and we've also verified with our clients when we're chatting to them about their job ad response. So we're seeing it well and truly across the board when it comes to hiring JavaScript and Ruby developers. So there's some stats. Now let's go through some anecdotal evidence. So how does this increase in jobs and decrease in job applications affect developers who are job searching? So we're going to take a look at the experience of 5 senior Ruby engineers, obviously anonymized data, people that we had placed recently through Look Ahead, to give you a bit of an idea of what people are experiencing now. So one person met with 6 companies, ended up being offered 3 roles, accepted a 155K base salary plus super, and that was a entirely remote role. Another person met with 4 companies, was offered and accepted a 153K base plus super, and for another remote role. Another person who usually worked permanent roles wanted to give contracting a try, interviewed for a contract role, and within 1 interview was offered the same day. It's getting 900 per day. Yeah, all in 1 day, 1 interview. Another person was told about 8 roles, and these are all Ruby roles, mind you, like these are all Ruby developers, senior Ruby developers. Was told about 8 roles, was offered and accepted 160K base. And another person was told about 9 roles, was offered 2 roles and accepted 150K base for a remote role. So these scenarios demonstrate a few things. Obviously, salaries have gone up. Seniors are getting between 150 and 160K base plus super. Obviously, there's outliers to that as well, but that's generally where people are hovering right now. Remote work is much more common. It's being offered more because developers are demanding it. Most of the developers that we're chatting to, that is their requirement. They don't want to be traveling or commuting to the office, even if it's there's even pushback for even a couple of days a week in a lot of circumstances. More roles mean more choice, more companies to interview at. So even if you're requiring that remote way of working, you've still got lots of choices of companies to interview at, and lots of different roles. And candidates are getting multiple offers more than ever before. So companies have obviously had to adapt to this new market, and they've done that in a number of ways. Obviously, the first one is increasing salaries. Again, that's the 150 to 160K base plus super is for the senior developers. And just as an aside, because we're a recruitment agency, we tend to get those kind of more senior roles because they're obviously harder to place and harder to find. And that's why a lot of the data here is based on that scenario. We've also seen an increase in counter offers. That's something to be aware of as well if you're job searching or if you're a hiring manager, that has been something that we'd have to kind of mitigate against early on in a hiring process. Obviously, the increasing remote work available affects everyone. We've seen companies open up not just to Australia, but sometimes also to New Zealand. And it's meant that developers in other locations who used to just go for Brisbane roles or Adelaide roles, they've now got all these roles open up to them that they can apply for. And not only that, their salary is no longer tied to their location as well. So we're seeing, Brisbane, people used to getting a Brisbane-based salary and now getting Sydney kind of salaries as well. So that's changed a lot for a lot of people. We're seeing simpler and faster hiring processes, because if you're a company competing for the same person for a senior Ruby developer role, sometimes getting in first actually makes a big difference to get your offer out first and be faster. So what that translates to is companies are aiming now for 1.5 weeks from resume submitted to contract signed, as opposed to 2 weeks, which was the goal before. Also, we've seen a decrease in companies insisting on take-home tech tests, because obviously that's going to take time. Some people like to wait till the weekend to do a tech test. And so that can add a whole week to the hiring process. And if you're trying to get within a week and a half, obviously that's going to be the one blocker that's going to stop you from being faster than all the other companies. So a lot of other companies have taken on the approach of having a tech interview where you're doing a pairing session or a code review. You're bringing along code of a side project and you're talking about the code that you've written. And that way you're not relying upon a developer to submit a code test. And it's a lot quicker that way. So it's a new way that companies are competing. We've seen other companies be more flexible with their job requirements. So what I mean by that is that for example, a mid-level person might be considered for what was previously allocated to be a senior role, gone out to the market, can't find a suitable senior for my senior role. Well, what promising mid-levels have we interviewed lately? What promising, who's nearly a senior that we can hire? So they're being more flexible with their requirements that way. They're also being more flexible with requirements in terms of experience with particular tech. So it could be, for example, a Golang role. They know that there aren't that many Go developers in the market, but they know that perhaps a Ruby developer might have a Golang side project. Not commercially, no commercial experience with Golang, but they're willing to consider those kind of candidates. So it's a good opportunity if you want to make a transition from one tech to another. Yeah, we're seeing that happen more often. Other things that companies are doing are emphasizing perks and career growth opportunities, because obviously salaries can't go up, infinitely. And if everyone's offering, or most people are offering remote work or flexible work, and they're all hurrying along with their hiring processes, how else are they going to be different? So they're offering perks like extra leave, education allowances, an allowance to set up your home office, more parental leave, all those kinds of things. Letting a dog come to your office. So they're emphasizing those things to kind of stand out from the crowd, because there are so many roles being advertised right now. You've got to kind of stand out and be different. Another thing companies are doing, and this is what we're actually advising our clients to do, is have a renewed focus on internal development and promotion. Look at who you've got already. What mid-level is really working hard and wants to be a senior? What senior do you have that would make a great tech lead? Focus on the internal development and promoting your people first, because it's going to be a lot harder to find someone externally. And the other thing that I missed before was focus on retention. So trying to keep your developers happy in your team so that they don't even consider a job search because they know they're being looked after, they've got a good career path, they're working on interesting projects and getting the challenges that they're looking for. So whether you're job searching or not as a software developer, this impacts you too. One of the outcomes of all this is that you have increased job security, both internally and externally. So internally, in that your companies are focusing on retention and not losing these valuable developers that are really hard to replace. But also externally, if you find yourself in a position where for some reason you don't have a job, your skills are in such high demand that your job security is in the market. So you've got that added benefit of the extra job security. Even if you're not job searching, obviously, as I mentioned before, you've got internal promotion opportunities. If you're a mid-level developer, ask about the senior roles that are being advertised in your company. Ask what milestones that you need to meet to qualify for that role. It may be that as a mid-level dev, you might reach those milestones within 6 months before they've even managed to hire someone externally. Or if your company has some new technology that you want to learn, ask for opportunities to learn it. And maybe even ask for some training as well to learn that new tech, and ask for opportunities to put it into practice. So yeah, now's a great time to be asking to do those courses, like perhaps it's an AWS certificate or a Scrum Leader certification or anything really, a leadership course. Ask for time and resources to be able to complete that training. And I think you'll find that a lot of companies will be more favourable to that because they want to keep you happy in your job. So knowing that your tech company will at some point be facing this hiring problem, because it's something that everyone will be facing at some point if you're going to need to hire a new team member, it actually makes it easy for you to know how to become a more valuable team member by simply becoming a part of the solution. So what I mean here is, the most valuable engineers on a team are those who help raise the skills and the knowledge on their team, both informally and formally. You don't need to be a tech lead or a team lead to be helping your team members learn and sharing the knowledge. You can help your company by increasing retention rates just by being a good leader or a good member or a good team member. If it doesn't come naturally to be a good mentor or a good leader, ask for that training. Show that initiative and see whether you can learn how to be a good mentor. Another way you can support your company and help be a part of the solution is to recognise the people on your team who are consistently performing well and recommend them for those promotions. and also being really supportive when it comes to hiring junior members on your team. I know for some people that can be a difficult thing to have more juniors on your team, but it's something that you can do in terms of being positive and being supportive and showing enthusiasm for that to bring more junior people on. That can be really helpful, especially in the longer term, because I don't think this problem is going away anytime soon. Another way that you can help being part of the solution is to help raise your company's profile. So if they're advertising roles and they're not getting much of a response, perhaps post on social media, do a shout out at the end of the meetup about your company's role. Or you may even want to go one step further and raise your company's tech team profile by giving a talk, so that everyone knows, about the projects you're working on and what exciting things you're learning in your job at your company. And you can even ask for time allocated within work to prepare that talk as well. So essentially now is a great time to be thinking about what your goals are, and talking to your manager about how they can align with the company's goals and how you can achieve them. So in summary, there are lots of opportunities for software developers. You're seeing increased salaries, more roles, more companies to choose from. You're seeing increased flexibility in the way that you work. So it's now more than ever a developer's job market. Part of your current situation is due to market forces, but some of it can also be attributed to the tech community that you're part of. I'm sure for you more senior developers especially, that when you look back on your career and how you got to be where you are now, that there were mentors, there were meetup groups, there were conferences, online tutorials, open source projects, that all helped point you in that right direction, that encouraged you to continue to learn, to not give up, and to be more effective software developers. So while I've given you some information tonight and some tips on how to make the most of the current shortage of developers in our job market, I do want to finish up by encouraging you to think of the people and the groups in the tech community that helped you along the way, and encourage you to pay it forward. There are plenty of junior developers that need mentoring and encouragement along the way. There are plenty of meetup organisers like Button who need volunteers to speak. There are plenty of open source projects that need contributions and questions even in your Slack group that need answering. So that's all I wanted to say tonight. If you'd like to get in contact with me to discuss anything I've talked about today, I'm always up for a coffee and a chat. That's kind of a novel thing to do these days, to actually meet in person, but feel free to email me and we can organise a time to chat. And I'm always happy to connect on LinkedIn, and there's my email address as well if you want to contact me directly. So thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Debbie. That was great. That really covered a lot of different facets of the stuff that we encounter. So it's really interesting. Does anyone have any questions before I start asking self-serving ones about people doing presentations? Does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask Debbie?
Yeah, can I ask a question? Yeah, I'm in Brisbane. I used to live in Sydney, but it's incredibly hard to get work up here. Years ago, I moved to Sydney because of this. How are they doing with the remote jobs? Because do they do like this sort of Zoom to interview people, or do you know anything more? Because yeah, I haven't done a remote interview or anything yet. But have you got any experience with that sort of area?
With interviewing in particular, are you asking?
Yeah, interviewing, because like that guy who wanted me to do some Ruby, he was kind of a nerd guy. It was a weird kind of application, but normally you have like yourself talking to a human being, not a bit of software, seeing if it works or not. You know, like not a test, not a software test, more of like a normal interview stuff. Yeah, like experience and this and that, you know, that sort of question. I think like your previous experience in this language, you know, skills in the tools, I'm not whatever. Yeah, I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'm not like I know that a lot of companies are just video interviewing now for remote roles, even roles that are in person. They're still doing video interviewing because sometimes they're at home and sometimes they're in the office. So it's just easier to have a video chat. And they're using some companies are using specific tools that make it easier to do pairing sessions, for example. But others are just simply screen sharing and talking through code, like it's a whiteboarding session or a code review.
So you could share screen, and then so you could show the guy some code you produced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did actually do a talk at SID CSS last year about preparing for video interviews. If you want to look that up, it's on the SID CSS meetup YouTube page.
Which one is that? Can you tell us the link in the chat, or?
Yeah, I'll send you a link later on. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Yeah, no, I have a friend in Newcastle I do some work for, and yeah, he'll often have the console. I'm like looking over his shoulder, you know what I mean? So you can sort of work to a degree like remotely like that, like in terms of trying to solve a problem, in your case, an interview. Yeah. So yeah, I was wondering, because there's only words can cover only so much. So yeah, if you can just screen share or.
Yeah.
Okay, if you've done a talk, and that'd be it, because I'm trying to get up to speed on that, because I think that's, as you say, is where I can't see the point of, you know, I've saved hundreds of dollars not using the train thing now because I'm using internet all the time. I must have saved $1,000 this year. So if you can use, that's just to here to Brisbane. So if you can do stuff,
remotely, yeah.
And people are getting into it more, and if there's certain, like, you know, etiquette or whatever you call it, you know. Yeah. Okay. So you'll tell us in the chat or something, Leah.
Yeah, I'll see if I can dig it up.
Yeah.
I'll do a bit of a Google.
CCS, was it? CCS.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good. I've only just started to use go to the Robo's again. I used to live in Sydney and go to the physical meetings. I think they were near Devonshire Street once. But I haven't been to it quite a while. But this is kind of so convenient now. It's made us everyone go back on to online again, which is really convenient. So.
I think everyone, well, most people, not everyone. There are a few people I've chatted with who haven't been enjoying working remotely, but a significant amount of developers have enjoyed that change in the last year of being able to at least choose to work from home when they want.
Thanks for that, Matthew. Is it? You could all look it up. Thanks.
Any other questions?
I have a question for you, Debbie.
Hi, Kenrick. What's your question?
Hi there. So I'm from Sendle. I work at Sendle. I'm the lead technology recruiter there. We actually partner with Look Ahead. We have for quite some time now. And my question is around the process. What would you say is the average amount of steps in a process? We're actively recruiting at the moment, and it would be good to know how many stages most other companies have in their process.
I would say, well, those who are having a code test, it's usually a first interview, a code test, and a second interview, or two interviews where one of them is a technical interview and perhaps the other one's more behavioural. Some companies have a bit of tech in both, one with more an emphasis on one than the other. But generally speaking, we tend to push back when clients want to add to interviews beyond that, just simply because it's harder to be quick and to, obviously scheduling slows things down. When it's a race against other companies, obviously that a day can make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Timing is everything.
Yeah. And so you said before that companies are like getting candidates through the process quicker and quicker now.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a way to compete. Because if, for example, you've got one excellent developer that is interviewing at 6 different companies and they've started their job search within a few, days of one another, it really is a race from there to kind of get that person through the interview process before other people have even had a chance. Because if you're a week quicker than everyone else, they're not going to take a week to decide on a job offer. Of course. Most people decide within a few days. And so, you've got yourself an edge. It doesn't always mean you're going to be successful, but at least it gives you a chance to compete, because that's essentially what everyone's doing. We're all competing for the same pool of developers.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Deb, I would wager that there have been lots of companies that you've talked to whose hiring process is quite dogmatic, and they sort of refuse to budge. They have to do a set process, otherwise they won't consider candidates. And so I was wondering how many times you've had to go back to companies and just say, look, you are too slow, like people have gone elsewhere already, and has that then resulted in them changing their process, either shortening it or just making it, more streamlined or whatever else?
Yes. I guess the best clients to work with are the ones that listen to our advice based on our, what we're seeing happening in the market, and it's great if they can take that advice up front. Some of them might want to go a different route. Like some people like their code test and want to keep it that way, but might have a different approach. Like, okay, we're going to pay our developers to do the code test instead. We're still going to value their time. We're going to motivate them in a different way. But yeah, we generally do advise our clients on how what developers want. Essentially, because it's developer-led, and specifically when it comes to code tests, we do see that if a developer is interviewing at several different places and one of them has a code test or a couple of them have a code test, they tend to fall behind and may not even get done, because by the time the developer's realizing, hey, I'm going to get a couple of offers, why do that code test? I've already got one or 2 offers already. So they might deprioritize it and leave it as plan B. That's, what does happen often. But obviously it depends on the company too. Some companies are very desirable and can ask a lot when it comes to code tests, and developers are happy to do it.
Are there many of those kinds of companies?
I'm sure you can think of a few. I won't name them, but we all know the big tech companies that people want to work with that are name brands, and people are willing to go through a longer hiring process than they would normally.
Cool, thanks.
Hi, I've got a question. When you were going through your slides, one thing that was really interesting to me was that applications are nowhere near as much as hiring vacancies, I guess, being advertised. And I guess just looking at some of the comments and probably thinking about people that I know in the community, there seems to be a big lag between confidence from the employer or the hiring manager versus maybe in the developer community. And I guess you've been having coffee with a lot of people. What kind of sentiments, what's the vibe amongst developers? I think the impression I'm getting is that maybe people are pretty risk averse right now, given kind of the broader kind of employment conditions.
I get that impression, but it's hard to know whether the issue with job applications, well, part of it's explained by the fact that job ads have just jumped so significantly in contrast to what happened last year. making up for the losses. So part of it's explained by that. And so obviously if it's per job ad and job ads have increased, of course, applications per job are going to decrease even if the same amount of job ads in total were the same, if that makes sense. But we have seen a dramatic, just anecdotally, you know, our job as recruiters has actually changed a lot. Like it used to be, you know, you'd have a whole bunch of applicants that you could go through and screen and interview. Sometimes when we advertise roles, we hardly get any response. And so we do rely upon approaching people directly a lot. You know, especially senior developers, I'm sure they're, you know, get a lot of LinkedIn requests and emails from people like me, wondering whether they're job searching and would want to hear about new roles. So that the whole approach has changed too for recruitment that way. Some developers are adverse to a job search, I guess, because of what happened and the instability that happened last year, and they just want to play it safe for a bit. But we're seeing a lot of security in the job market right now. So to me, it's like now's the time to take some risks because there's plenty of choice out there. And if you wanted to try something new and that you never would have, you know, thought of before, it's actually a good time to be looking because you've got all that choice.
I'm pretty happy working as a contractor. What's the contractor market like? A lot of the conversation was, I got the sense it was probably more directed towards permanent hiring.
Well, last year contracting obviously was the first to go because that's the thing that is easy to let go of during a period of instability. But then it quickly recovered. So we're seeing, you know, contractors go back to contracting. A few contractors, you know, would have wanted to play it safe and go back to perm, but yeah, contractors are still contracting and rates have increased as well for contracting as well as perm.
Cool, thank you.
Alrighty, great. Thank you for all those questions. That was really good. And thank you, Debbie. That was very insightful and